All right, the Bulls take on the Hawks, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Chicago's -4.5 with the total at 231. The following Wednesday's sports wagering action, we did drop to 7-2 with a push in our last 10 $1.99 daily best plays on BrockPage.com. $1,000 bettors are now up just over $4,300 during that stretch of bets. We definitely have to do a better job than that. We're hitting at just 78% during that span. Got to do a better job. Don't really know how else to sugarcoat it. 78%, not good enough. Now, if you think we can get back on track here today, the link for today's $1.99 daily best play is in the description section below. We also have over 760 members right now who are signed up and active on that website. Now, if you sign up today for my $1.99 daily best play, just keep in mind, you're actually going to get access to that package every single day all the way through the end of March for just the original fee of $1.99. I think it works out to be like 3 cents a day or something like that. It's ridiculous. But anyway, if you're not signed up for that package, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll explain a little bit more about it in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on here, guys, I just want to take another quick time out and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on BrockPage.com. I have packages on that website starting at just $1.99. Now, the purpose of these YouTube videos is to provide you with free informational sports betting content. And it's also designed to generate interest in signing up for a membership on my website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my webpage. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on my website is, well, I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. But when it comes to this ball game here, let's go ahead and dive back into the free content. When it comes to the Chicago-Atlanta game, it's actually the Hawks who may end up going to work here tonight without their star, their leading scorer, Trae Young. Unfortunately, Trae's currently battling an ankle injury, and he's currently listed as questionable. Meanwhile, their second leading scorer, John Collins, he's still out with a foot injury himself. So Atlanta potentially leaving a lot of points on the table here tonight just simply through injuries. Now, the Hawks did lose 2 out of their last 3. They're also having some difficulties on the defensive end of the court this year. Atlanta's currently in the bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage. And they're actually amongst the worst in the East in defending the 3 ball as well. Meanwhile, offensively on the other end of the court, the Hawks have actually been struggling grabbing offensive boards. These guys also find themselves in the bottom 10 in home offensive rebounding. Now, they're taking on a Chicago team who won 6 out of their last 8 ball games themselves, despite their recent skid. And they're still scoring a whole lot of points this season. The Bulls are averaging, they're in the top 10 in offensive points per game. And they also find themselves in the top 3 in shooting from the field. DeMar DeRozan, he's dropping 28 points a game along with 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Zach LaVine, he's averaging 24.5 points per contest himself, along with 4 boards and 4.5 assists. Now, one more thing to add here about LaVine. He's been really dangerous from 3 land. He's actually drilling 40% of his 3-pointers this year. And speaking of 3 balls, the Bulls currently find themselves in the top 3 in the NBA in offensive 3-point percentage. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Ball and Caruso are still out indefinitely for Chicago. Meanwhile, for Atlanta on the other side, Young and Williams are questionable for them. Collins and Okongwu are out. Total-wise, the Hawks went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. They also allowed 117 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Chicago. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Meanwhile, the Bulls on the other side of things, they saw overs recently with the likes of Sacramento, Minnesota, and Phoenix. I'm going to lean towards Chicago minus 4.5 and the over 231. Next ball game, it is going to be Pistons versus the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's minus 8.5 at home, totals 216. Now the Raptors won their last two straight, and even though they're a little bit banged up right now, I still think they should cover the number against a terrible Pistons unit. Toronto's allowing only 105 points a game at the Scotiabank Arena. They're also in the top 10 in fewest fourth quarter points allowed at home. Now offensively, on the other end of the court, it's Pascal Siakam, who's averaging over 21 points per contest, along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Gary Trent Jr. is drilling nearly 40% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring over 18 points a game. They're taking on a terrible Detroit team who doesn't win many ball games on the road. Matter of fact, these guys are just 6-26 straight up when traveling. That's good for only 18% in that particular category. And no real surprise here, the Pistons are allowing over 115 points per contest away from their home court. Another thing to add here about Detroit, they're also dead last in the NBA in defending the field goal on the road. Now, injury-wise, Bagley and Diallo, they are listed as questionable for the Pistons. Meanwhile, for Toronto on the other side, Van Fleet and Anunoby are questionable for them, a little bit banged up. Keep an eye on those guys. Wilson is out with a knee, although with those injuries in mind, I still think Toronto should be able to get the job done against the number here. Detroit is just not very good. Now, total-wise, Toronto is currently 60% to the over in front of their home crowd. They also saw 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Detroit get over the number. So if you're into historical trends, once again, plenty of overs to go around. Now, the Pistons, on the other side of things, they saw 7 out of their last 8 ball games get over the posted total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Toronto minus 8.5 over 216. Next matchup, it is going to be Grizzlies versus the Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Memphis is minus 3 with a total at 224. Now, the Grizzlies got the W in 8 out of their last 10 ball games. And they successfully covered the point spread in 80% of those contests. Now, the Grizzlies are amongst the best road teams in the entire association as well. They're actually second in the NBA in road victories with 22 of them. Now, Ja Morant, he's been a big contributor to those victories. He's averaging over 27.5 points a game, along with 5 rebounds and 6 assists. Meanwhile, Desmond Bane, he's scoring 17.5 points per contest himself, along with 4 boards and a couple assists as well. Now, Bane's also drilling 41% of his three-pointers, and in addition to ranking in the top 3 in scoring on average per contest, the Grizzlies are leading the entire NBA in offensive boards. They're taking on a Boston team who failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5. And they're going to work here tonight without their second leading scorer, Jaylen Brown. And even when they're mostly healthy, well, the Celtics really haven't been terrific at shooting the basketball. Matter of fact, Boston currently finds themselves in the bottom 10 in the NBA in offensive three-point percentage. Now, total-wise, Boston's 19-13 to the under at the Garden this season. They also saw unders recently against the likes of Atlanta, Denver, and Orlando. Meanwhile, Memphis, on the other side of things, they saw their last 3 straight fall under the posted total themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Memphis minus 3 and the under 224. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Heat versus the Nets, 7:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Miami's minus 3 with a total at 221. Now, the Heat's gotten the W in 9 out of their last 11 ball games. They're playing incredibly tough on the defensive end of the court this season. Matter of fact, Miami leads the entire NBA in fewest road points allowed per contest. They're also first in the association in defensive boards per game. Now, scoring-wise, when it comes to the offensive production in this one, Jimmy Butler is averaging over 21.5 points per contest, along with 6 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Tyler Hero, he's dropping 20 points a game himself, along with 4 boards and 3 assists. And speaking of offensive production, Miami's in the top 3 in the NBA in shooting the 3-ball on the road. They're taking on a Brooklyn team who plays their worst basketball in the Barclays Center. The Nets have actually gotten the W in just 13 out of 30 home games. And in addition to that, they're in the bottom 10 in the NBA in home scoring. Now, even worse than that, the Nets also find themselves in the bottom 3 in the association in shooting the 3-ball at home as well. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Irving, Harris, and Simmons are out. Drummond and Durant, they are questionable as well. Although it does look like Durant's going to play. We'll see how good he does. Maybe, conditioning might be an issue. A little bit of rust. But anyway, when it comes to the total in this one, 6 out of these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings did fall under the number. Matter of fact, the Nets have been held to just 107 points a game in their last 10 contests against the Heat, really struggling to put up points on the board against their opponents here tonight. Now, Miami saw unders recently against Chicago, Charlotte, and Dallas. I'm going to lean toward Miami -3 in the under 221. Next matchup, it is going to be Warriors versus the Mavericks, 8:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Golden State's -2.5, totals 219. But despite laying a bucket on the road here, the Warriors have certainly struggled to get the W here recently. These guys lost 6 out of their last 8 ball games. They covered the point spread only once since February 1st. And even though we're looking at a Golden State team who's catapulted by their defensive play, these guys are actually in the bottom 10 in the NBA in first quarter points allowed. Now they're taking on a Dallas team who's certainly had their number in recent meetings. The Mavs actually got the W in 8 out of their last 10 against Golden State. And in addition to that, they also averaged over 121 points a game during that span. Now, when it comes to covering the point spread, well, the Mavs covered in 9 out of their last 10 ball games, so this is a team that's been cashing in on a lot of tickets. Luka Doncic, he's averaging 27.5 points per contest, along with 9 rebounds and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson, he scores over 16 points a game himself. He's also making over 50% of his field goals. Now, one of Dallas' strengths is their ability to win ball games at home. These guys are 20-11 straight up at the American Airlines Center. And they're allowing only 101 points a game in that building. And if that weren't enough, well, the Mavs currently lead the entire NBA in defending the 3-ball on their home court. Now, injury-wise, when it comes to that injury report, Burke and Ntilikina are questionable. Chris and Pinson are out. Meanwhile, for Golden State on the other side of things, Iguodala and Green are still out for them. Thompson and Lee are questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, Golden State saw unders recently against Utah, OKC, and this very Dallas team. Meanwhile, the Mavs are 24-7 to the under as the official home team. I'm going to lean toward Dallas +2.5 in the under 219. Next contest, it is going to be Kings versus the Spurs, 8:30 p.m. East. San Antonio's -6.5 with the total at 238. Now, the Spurs have done a pretty nice job covering the point spread here recently. They're 6-3 against the spread in their last 9. And they've also done a really good job of scoring points at home. Now, San Antonio is currently in the top 10 in offensive points per game on their home court. And they're also in the top 5 in shooting from the field in that very same category. DeJounte Murray, he's scoring over 20 points per contest, along with 8 rebounds and 9 assists. Meanwhile, Keldon Johnson, he's making nearly 43% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging 15 points a game. And I'll tell you what, speaking of three-pointers, San Antonio's in the top 10 in the association in offensive three-point percentage at home. They're taking on a Sacramento team who loves to give up points themselves, really struggling defensively this season. Sacramento's allowing nearly 118 points a game when they travel. And they got the W in only 25% of those road games. And aside from being in the bottom 3 in guarding the 3-ball on the road, the Sacramento Kings are also letting their opponents make nearly 50% of their field goals against them, away from home as well. Now, injury-wise, Holmes is questionable. Davis is out. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, for San Antonio, Langford and McDermott are questionable for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Sacramento went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings. They're also 18-13 to the over on the road. Meanwhile, the Spurs on the other side, they have gone 20-9 to the over at the AT&T Center themselves. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio, -6.5, and the over 238. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Lakers versus the Clippers, 10 p.m. Eastern start time. The LA Clippers are -2.5, totals 218. Now, the Clippers have been on a bit of a roll here lately. They won their last 4 straight, and they also covered in 6 out of their last 7. Now, the Clippers have played some spirited defense throughout the entire season. They're in the top 10 in fewest points allowed per contest, and they also find themselves in the bottom 5 in home defensive three-point percentage. So not giving up a whole lot of points, doing a great job guarding the 3 ball. Now, scoring-wise, Norman Powell, he's averaging 21 points a game with his new team. 3 rebounds, 4 assists for Norm. Now, Powell's also drilling 43% of his 3 balls with the Clippers. Meanwhile, Reggie Jackson, he's scoring over 16.5 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Now, when it comes to shooting the 3 ball, the Clippers are in the top 5 in the NBA in that particular category. They're taking on a struggling Laker team who lost their last 3 straight. And they logged only 3 victories since January 25th. Now, the Lakers' biggest problem has been their defensive play. These guys are in the bottom 10 in points allowed per contest, and they're also amongst the worst in the West in defensive boards. Now, injury-wise, Davis and Nunn are still out. Bradley, Horton Tucker, and LeBron James, they are listed as questionable as well. When it comes to the total in this one, the Lakers saw their last 4 straight all fall under the line. They also went 7-3 to the under in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with the Clippers. Meanwhile, speaking of the Clippers, well, they saw 5 out of their last 7 ball games fall under the posted total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers -2.5 and the under 218. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on BrockPage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on BrockPage.com, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of March. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, if you want to get access to every single package that I offer on that website, you may want to think about signing up for my board member tier. Board members are going to get access to every single package that I offer on that webpage. It is most certainly an all-inclusive membership. But most importantly, guys, gotta thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at BrockPage.com.